It was calm and overcast when we left Silver Bay on Lake Superior's scenic North Shore. Chuck again was along as crew. Unfortunately, he had recently injured his shoulder and had to be extremely careful with his left arm. We knew the calm weather would not continue for long. The forecast was for building winds and waves offshore, as well as in the Apostles. Besides, it sure looked like we would soon see some weather. We kept an eye out for any traffic, but there were very few boats and freighters out on the open lake that day. However, there were a few. For instance, Freelance's AIS and radar gave us an early warning about the upbound Edgar B. Spear long before we saw it on the horizon. So can you see the spear?
Yeah.
I have him out 4 miles. Our electronics had estimated the huge ore carrier would safely pass in front of us by a large margin, and it was nice to know that they were right. I have absolutely no desire to be up close to a 1,000-foot freighter if I don't have to be. The Spear was steadily working its way towards clearing weather. We, on the other hand, were not. A squall was moving east along the south shore, and while we hoped to avoid the worst of it, there was no way we could avoid all of it. And frankly, it might give us some decent sailing opportunities. Freelance is a Pearson 36 cutter, also known as a Pearson 367. And as most cutters, it is specifically designed to handle heavy weather. So we were having a comfortable ride. However, when the winds built into the 25-knot range, I decided to just drop the staysail instead of putting a first reef in the main and moving the running backstays. This decision was mainly due to Chuck's injury. There was no reason to chance any further damage to his shoulder. We also slightly changed our course, now heading into the Apostles between York and Sand Islands. That took us into calmer waters, but over the Sand Island Shoal. It was here the 373-foot steamer Savannah struck in a severe 1905 gale and broke in two. Of the 23 people aboard, 7 were tragically lost. We began a gradual turn to the east, aiming to go through the gap between York Island and the mainland, and now found that the wind was backing west. In fact, the weather was changing. The squall had passed. We saw some scattered blue sky behind us, and the wind speeds went down to 15, gusting to 20. Up went the staysail, and I took the helm. It was time to have some fun. I should mention that without also carrying our jib topsail, Freelance is somewhat underpowered in this wind range. It's sometimes said that cruisers set their sails for the gusts, and the racers aim to set them for the lower wind speeds and then ride the gusts. We were definitely in a comfortable cruising trim, but still maintaining a boat speed of about 6.5 knots. Normally, the jib topsail would have added another knot to our boat speed. Regardless, the winds were very gusty, making it tricky to hold a steady course. We were headed east, into the Lighthouse Channel between the mainland and Oak Island. You will not find the name Lighthouse Channel on any of the charts. It's a local designation of long standing, and it's because of the beautiful white lighthouse above the cliff at Raspberry Island. But that's to the west, and we were going east towards a buoy at Red Cliff Point. That is where we often see northwestern winds increase due to a Venturi effect. They get squeezed between the heights of the mainland and the 479-foot tall Oak Island. At the buoy at Red Cliff Point, we made our turn south into the West Channel and adjusted our sails for a beam reach. Even though we were now on the lee of the land, the winds were gusting into the 20-knot range. The conditions were absolutely perfect for our full main and staysail combination. We buried the rail only once, but came close half a dozen times. Our boat speed was consistently above 7 knots. I was very happy. Of course, a beam breach is always a sailboat's fastest point of sail, but you have to scale your sail plan appropriately for the wind speed. One of the nice things about sailing the Apostles is that the waves are usually small to moderate due to the shelter from the landforms. That is something that I especially appreciate on this point of sail.
I see some kayaks straight ahead. Boy, that's tough to see.
The 2 kayaks safely crossed towards Basswood Island, and off Bayfield we started up the diesel and took down the sails. However, this time we were not going into our old home port of Bayfield, but continued 2 miles further down the shore and around the point into Pikes Bay, where we had arranged for temporary dock space at Port Superior, where Vicky and Jane were waiting for us with the vehicles. It had been a really fun day on the big lake, and although we had to use the engine half of the way to stay on schedule, we had plenty of great sailing hours.